everyone, once again, and welcome to another episode of Inside IUE Sports. I'm your host, Caleb Gillock. Well, the KIAC preseason polls were just released recently, and today we're going to talk a little bit about that with our panel of experts. And joining me is Kyle Wright, Ty Butler, and Franklin Crisp. Guys, thanks for joining me today.
Absolutely.
No problem. Let's start out with talking about men's tennis. Of course, in that poll, Asbury won the poll right now with 15 points. IU Southeast second with 13 points. Russia and IU East tied for third with 9 points, and Alice Lloyd in fifth with 4 points. Kyle, tell us a little bit about the poll.
Just three quick thoughts. Just looking back at last year, Asbury won the regular season title, but IU Southeast pulled a pretty surprising upset in my eyes in the championship match of the conference tournament. So there were kind of two champions last year. That's who you're seeing at 1 and 2. I think a nice little bit of respect for IU East in that poll being tied with Brescia. We've actually never beat Brescia, so the fact that the coaches looked around and saw the Red Wolves as worthy of being tied with the Bearcats, they're typically closer to the top than they are to the bottom. So nice little bit of respect there. And then a team not showing on that graphic, Ashford, Iowa. You have to have 6 teams in your conference tournament to get an automatic bid to nationals. As we saw, there's only 5, so we had to bring in a 6th team to have an automatic bid. Ashford actually came in and won the women's tennis conference tournament this fall, and I think they're going to be a team that you really have to keep an eye out on the men's side as well. They have their own indoor facility, some guys that are definitely there to play some tennis. Look out for Ashford, even though they're not officially in the conference.
All right, how about your picks, Ty?
I kind of have the same kind of aspects up top. At the top, Asbury. Played against them the last 3 years. They're just all around tough. They get their one singles player back this year, and I kind of looked at the roster, and they have a couple of transfers. And IU Southeast, another solid team all around. I haven't seen any drop off in them, especially last year, playing them wise and everything. They're just an all around solid team. I kind of feel like maybe Asbury just on the championship match when they lost, they kind of were looking past IU Southeast because they never lost him and kind of wasn't really having their mindset right. But I think this year Asbury is really going to be clear cut. Brescia. They've always been pretty solid. We've always had a lot of battles with them, been really close. Kind of never know what you're going to get when you play Brescia. That's kind of one of the mentalities going into it. You just got to go in and kind of play. Us at the 4th spot, and then, of course, Alice Lloyd down at the bottom.
All right, how about you, Franklin?
Well, Ty, he's going to know obviously a little bit more about this than I am, being the tennis player that he is. I've got Asbury at the top, and basically, everything that I know is essentially through Ty. Pretty solid team in themselves. Southeast also pretty solid as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put Asbury at the top. Got some solid guys back from their previous seasons, and so yeah, I'm going to go ahead and throw them up there at number 1.
All right, Ty, with you being the tennis player, I guess I'll ask you this question. Everybody seems to think that Asbury will be the number 1 team in the conference. And is that just because they're typically a strong team?
They've got the history, but the thing is, the players that they brought in to give them the history were freshmen when I was a freshman. So basically each year, like now they're seniors. So it's like each year they've been number 1 because starting from those players freshman year, they just came in and just swept through everything. So it's kind of one of those just 4-year phases that's going to go through, and next year, who knows what will happen.
Well, I just kind of answer my next question. I was going to ask, do you think that will change next year?
I think it will, especially with how recruiting goes and such. IU Southeast, they'll be really tough, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of maybe possible coaching changes might happen in conference. Asbury is going to lose a lot of talent, so it's going to be one of those where whoever can basically refuel for next season is going to have the head start.
All right. When we come back, we'll talk about men's golf right here on Inside IUE Sports.
This is where a busy mom can work toward a bachelor's degree from a top national university during softball practice. It's where a service member can continue his college studies from anywhere in the world, and where you'll benefit from one of the country's most effectively delivered online programs.
Woohoo!
So, if you've ever wondered if a college education is really worth it, this is where you'll see that it is. This is Indiana University East Online.
I'm Dr. Ganesh Ramachandran, the region's only hand specialist at Reed Orthopedic Center. Patients love how easy it is having everything under one roof and how easy it is to get here. Right here at Reed Orthopedic Center, right here in Richmond.
And welcome back to Inside IUE Sports for our KIC Selection Show. It's time to talk a little bit about golf, and we're going to start with men's golf. In the poll, Point Park is ranked first with 25 points, Brescia in second with 20, IU East third with 16, Asbury fourth with 14, CCU in fifth with 10, and Alice Lloyd rounds out the conference with 5 points. Kyle, what are your thoughts on men's golf?
If I'd had to submit a vote, that's probably the poll I would have sent in myself. Point Park won it last year, has actually advanced to nationals out of our conference the last 2 years. Brescia had advanced out of our conference the last, I think, 3 or 4 years before that. Asbury had been finishing ahead of IU East the last few years, but IU East, I know we beat them pretty handily. Franklin, you can confirm if I'm telling the truth, in a fall event that we were at the same place. So I do think it's accurate that the Red Wolves are jumping the Eagles. And CCU and Alice Lloyd in recent years have kind of been the number 5 and number 6 teams. So Franklin will probably do the majority of the talking since he's the golfer of the bunch. From what I've seen, when Brescia was winning the conference tournament, you had to shoot 3 rounds of 315 or better, 18-hole rounds to win the thing. Once Point Park came aboard, then you had to shoot 3 rounds of 300 or better. Our average last year was 322, so I'm eager to hear if we've got a 22-stroke drop in us.
Well, I think I've got Brescia at the first spot. Really, I think it's going to be a toss-up between all of the teams in the top 3, between us, Brescia, and Point Park. I think this is the year that Point Park doesn't win it. I think they've got a lot of strong pieces. They always have guys coming in. They're always pretty strong. But I do think that Brescia is probably the deepest of the bunch. Now we've got a new kid in from Tennessee who's really going to help us out in Sam Roten. So he's going to be a big part of our success here in the spring. But we also play at a course that not a lot of teams are going to be real familiar with, which is Liberty Country Club down in Liberty. And that's going to be a very demanding course. To walk that for 36 holes is going to be very tough. And I feel like that we're probably one of the more fit teams that you're going to see probably in the conference. So I'm going to say I'm not counting this out at all. I think we've got a really good shot this year. And if this is the year that someone from the middle of the pack comes out and pulls an upset, if you will, I think that this is the year that it's going to happen, and I think it could be us.
Now, you also said that you think that this is the year that Point Park won't win the conference. Why is that?
I feel like they lost 2 very key components last year. The Bowen kid that I played with in conference, he was pretty good. They're all pretty strong, pretty deep, very talented kids. But I feel like Brescia is just a little bit deeper than Point Park is going to be this year. So I really think that Point Park's going to have, their hands full with Brescia big time. And for me, I feel like Brescia is the team to beat right now in the conference.
All right, Ty, what are your thoughts?
It would be nice to know about this before I did mine. I'm not the golf expert here. I put Point Park, again, just kind of like the whole respect. I'm not familiar with the whole golf staying stuff. And I guess recently I've heard about is Point Park's always been the top 1, and since they're top of the poll, I went ahead and put them at the top. I did put us at second, though, IU East at second. And I didn't know that Brescia was that deep either. But I just feel like Coach Gordon, he's going to get us in the right mindset, and it's one of those instances where you got to play good in that one certain time, and I think Coach Gordon knows how to get you guys there.
John's a very positive guy. He's very optimistic. Talked to us multiple times about, he's a number cruncher, so he does that. He sits there, he's like, I think if we do this, this, and this, then, the opportunity for us is definitely going to be there. Mm-hmm. So I'm real thankful for John coming in. He's got his heart in the right place, and he's moving us forward in the right direction. So John's been huge for us.
Mm-hmm. And so just to finish kind of mine, I put the Brescia at the third. Kind of the shocking one. He expected to be first. I'll put him at third. So we'll see who's got the craziest poll here. Asbury fourth, CCU fifth, and then Alice Lloyd at the bottom.
All right, well, let's talk about women's golf now. In the poll, Brescia was first with 16 points, Asbury second with 11, Point Park third with 10, Midway fourth with 8, and IU East in fifth with 5 points. Kyle?
Interesting. You can't vote for yourself in these polls. I don't know if we didn't show the first place votes in parentheses, but there were 4 first place votes for Brescia and 1 for Midway. And you can't vote for yourself, so that tells us we know Brescia thinks that Midway is the second best team, which Midway is basically its first year as a full team. So I'm just interested if they know something we don't know. Maybe they've got 5 LPGA future professionals. I don't know, but I'm just curious what insight that the Brescia coach has that we don't have. Brescia's the most established women's golf team in the conference. They have been, for a while, they were the only established women's golf team in the conference. Asbury is fairly new. Point Park is new to the conference. Midway just started up. We're still kind of trying to get our feet under us. This year, I think we've got a stable of 5 golfers that are committed we can count on to perform at each one. There was a KIAC tournament mixed with another conference last year for the automatic bid, where we finished 5th and did finish ahead of another team. I think that'd be a good goal for this year to don't care who we beat, but it'd be good to beat someone. But Brescia has been the class of the league as far back as I can remember.
All right, let's go over to our golfer, Franklin.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and agree with Kyle. Brescia's they've had the clear advantage, and in my eyes, they've got the path to the number 1 spot. Also, very interesting with Midway getting that first place vote. I don't have any sort of insight as to why that might be, but yeah, like Kyle said, perhaps they've got some rising professionals on their squad, possibly. Us, IU East, we've like Kyle said, trying to get our feet underneath us. Kyle's basically picked up all my points, but yeah, I feel like we've got 5 players that are committed and ready to move the program forward right now. So it's going to be interesting to see how well they do, not only right here in this year that we're in, but in the years to come as well. So hopefully we've got some bright spots there for our future.
And you also said we have a few key players. Who are some of those key players?
Well, Candace Worland, she's definitely one of the big commits from last year, just a sophomore. Be interesting to see how she pans out as far as her career goes here in the next couple of years. But yeah, she's definitely been big. To be honest with you, I don't know all the names of our women's squad, but I do know that we've definitely got some pieces in there to help build the program.
All right, Ty, what are your thoughts on the poll?
Basically, what crossed mine, I mean, I basically, without knowing theirs, copied their standings side by side. I'm not an expert in golf. I haven't seen most of the girls play. I've been around our girls team once over at an Indiana Wesleyan matchup, and they played pretty solid, I thought. So that's all I can really go off of. And I know on the poll thing it has us near the bottom, but I will never put IU East at the bottom of any poll for my stats. So we won't be at the bottom.
All right. Well, Kyle, I'll ask you a quick question. Unrelated to the poll, how do you think Coach Rondo and our women's team will do this year?
Again, it's been a struggle. If you go back through our history, we generally are able to field a full team in the fall, and we've really struggled to do it in the spring. Just things happen over the winter, and we've been unable to basically even post a team score. This year we started with many more than 5. 5 is the minimum to have a full team. And right now we have 5, and I don't think those 5 are going anywhere. Franklin mentioned Candace Worland, all-conference honoree last year. Another name, I can say it, I can't spell it. Alex Van Wanzeel was a Division II golfer at Southern Indiana for a couple of years and is here. She actually matched our school record for low score in the fall. And if she does anything like that this year, in the spring, she'll be in contention for a nationals bid, possibly be medalist in our conference. So a couple names to know there. I think this is a year we can start to get the feet settled under us and really start to move the program forward.
All right, well, there you have it, both the men's and women's golf rankings in the KIAC. When we come back, we'll talk about track and field right here on Inside IU Sports.
Dylan Newman had a terrible dislocated shoulder after a bad dirt bike accident. The long-term solution, surgery and intense rehab.
I trusted Reed Orthopedics because they had already fixed my ankle. And within 4 months of my surgery, Dr. Miller and my Reed therapist, April, helped me to regain my motion and most of my strength. Thanks to Reed Ortho, I can get back to what I love. It's all about trust. Right, Dr. Miller?
right here at Reed.
Right here in Richmond.
And welcome back to Inside IUE Sports for our KIAC selection show. And it's time to talk about track and field. We've already talked about tennis and golf. So in the men's track and field, the poll, Rio Grande is first with 9 points, Point Park second with 7, IU East in third with 5, and Brescia in fourth with 3 points. Kyle?
Well, it's a new look for the track and field scene in the KIAC. For many years, it's been dominated by Berea College. They'd host the event. They'd have 2 or 3 kids in every event. So they had depth. They were winning most of the events, so just really good all around. They've left for Division III, so Rio Grande kind of came in. We're glad they did because they're actually the only school in the conference that has its own track. So they're going to be hosting the thing for the foreseeable future, just because they do have a track there. Pretty much in track and field, from my experience, you don't even necessarily need to know how talented the teams are. You can pretty much just look at the roster sizes, and just with the way track and field scoring works, you can pretty much tell what's going to happen from that. So just looking at it that way, Rio Grande, looking at their roster, they pretty much got a football roster. And just the way that track and field meets are scored, as long as they're remotely talented, they're going to have so many people that they're going to have enough points to win the thing. Point Park has, I guess, half a football team. So just, again, on numbers, even though it's their first year in the conference for track and field, I think they probably will be the runner-up. Our guys are getting there. We're up to about 20 guys. About 10 more, we can seriously start to think about winning it. A good goal for us would be, can we have the most individual champions? I don't know if we have the numbers to actually win the thing, but can we have the most individual champions? That's a good goal. Brescia, down to about 10 guys. We already beat them in cross country, which is where Brescia hangs their hat. I think we're safely in the top 3.
All right, Ty, what were your picks?
For my picks, I had Rio at the top. I've just heard so much about them. Basically, it sounds like they just have like the platoon system, I guess you'd say, for UK, how it's compared. They just have so many guys. I put IU East at second over Point Park. Again, Point Park being new, don't really know too much. But Kyle kind of talked about having the individual winners. I think we really have some talent on our team. Right. And if it came down to it, a close matchup, I think our speed walker might walk a little bit faster than Point Park's to get up top there. And then, of course, Brescia down at the 4th spot.
All right, Franklin?
Well, I've got Rio also at number 1, coming from, I believe, the Mid-South Conference, which is NAIA Division I, fairly big conference. A team coming from a prestigious conference such as the Mid-South, is probably going to do fairly well in our conference. I'm going to have IU East also at the second spot. I feel like our program is also on the rise. Got a lot of good guys as far as our distance runners go. I know we got some good relay teams that are also on the rise here too. So I would say, in the next couple of years that, we're probably going to have some pretty stout track and field and cross-country teams. Actually, we already do have some pretty decent cross-country teams. So yeah, as far as that goes, I've got IU East at the second spot, and I've got Rio at the first. Probably going to have Point Park in there at the 3rd spot over Brescia. Kyle said it himself. Brescia's kind of on the down, and also with Point Park being a new program, that's why I got them at the 3. But I expect them to probably have a couple talented kids coming in, being in the Pittsburgh area. So got them in where they're at.
Now, with Point Park being a new program, Kyle, how are they able to place so high in the preseason poll?
It's all about numbers. You look at their roster, they've got about, I think, 25, 30, 40 kids. And again, the way track and field scored, usually you can only put so many kids in an event. So let's say that I'm going against we'll say Team Franklin and Ty will make a new college out of you too. Even if I win the event, if they finish second and third, their team score is going to be 14 points. My team score is going to be 10, even though I won. So just those numbers, even if we're racking up individual wins, those numbers that those other school has, in a team setting, it makes it hard to overcome.
All right, well, with that in mind, let's take a look at women's track and field. In the 1 spot in the poll, Rio Grande also with 9 points. Point Park second with 7, IU East third with 5, and in 4th, Brescia with 3 points. Kyle, your thoughts on the women's poll?
Well, that looked familiar, didn't it? The exact same order, the exact same votes, the exact same points, and actually my analysis is exactly the same because, again, you just look at roster size. Rio Grande's got the most. Again, the way the scoring works, they'd be hard-pressed not to win the thing. Point Park has the second most. They've got more than 20 kids in their first year. Again, the way the scoring works, they'd be hard-pressed not to finish second. Same idea for our women. We've got about 10 to 15. The numbers realistically aren't there to actually win the thing. We actually had a couple years back, one of the first years for our team, we truly did win about 70% of the events. We had 2 or 3 kids on the roster, won events left and right, and even though we won by far the most events, couldn't make a dent in the team scoring. We still finished 3rd or 4th that particular year, even with all the gold medals we brought home. So still a year where if there's some individual successes, maybe send some individual kids to the national meet, that's a good year. Just the numbers, it's not really within our control to place or not place a certain spot in the conference. And then Brescia, same situation with them. I looked at their roster; they've got about 10. They'd be hard pressed to rise above anyone else on the list.
All right, Ty, your picks?
Kind of same thing. Kind of agreed with the polls. Rio Grande at number 1 with all the people and stuff. I mean, like Franklin said, coming from the Mid-South Conference, it's a very, very prestigious conference. Point Park coming in. Size number as well, kind of copying off the guys. IU's 3rd, and then Brescia down at 4.
Franklin?
Well, I'm essentially going to say the same things. That got the polls looking the exact same way as the men's do. Rio, just being the size of the school that they are, the numbers that they are, they're going to be hard pressed to find a spot below being number 1. Got IU East at 2. I feel like we've done pretty well for ourselves to bring in some new faces and grow the program. So I expect that to continue as the years go on. But as far as anyone beating Rio, I just don't see it.
All right. Well, in order for Rio Grande to have so many people, Kyle, they have a good history of a good team, or?
For starters, they have a track. That's a recruiting show. We've actually done amazingly, considering we bring in recruits, and when they ask where do we run, and the answer has to be all road meets. So, in my opinion, we've done phenomenally well given the situation that we have. But they actually have a top 5 in the nation soccer program. If you got a soccer field, you may as well stick a track around it, which they've done, and kind of snowball effect from there. And then the school's been around for 150 years, whereas we've been around for 40. So just having the facilities, having that history, being in the Mid-South Conference where you got to have athletes to compete in anything, it's just a history that they've been able to build that we'll get there. It's just we're not there yet.
Anything else you'd like to add about any of the polls today?
Just always a good talking, something to get people interested in spring. It actually felt like spring yesterday. It was about 50 degrees. We're back in the 20s now, but just I'm always, anything that gets us thinking about warmer weather is something I'm very much in favor of.
Anything else you'd like to add, Ty?
Rumor has it we have a speed walker that's we playing for our team. I know track and field doesn't really get that much attention or so, but that's something I know I'm really interested in. I'm probably going to go to a road event, and it's more points for IU to pick up, so give some love to the long distance slow walkers.
Yeah, I found that out just the other day as well about the speed walking event. I thought that was pretty funny. Actually, I just learned about it last night talking to some of our track guys. But speed walking, not something that you would have thought would make it to a college athletic event. But that'll be interesting.
All right, well, thank you guys for joining me. And that concludes this week's episode of Inside IU Sports. I'm your host, Caleb Gillonk. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.